In 1987, two young schoolgirls were brutally murdered just 6 months and a few miles apart on the San Francisco Peninsula. For nearly 40 years, a chilling question has haunted the community: were Yvonne Fruit and Michelle Matucci targeted by the exact same monster, or did two different killers vanish into thin air? This is the heartbreaking mystery that modern science is desperate to solve. Two girls, 6 months apart, the unsolved 1987 murders of Yvonne Fruit and Michelle Matucci. In the spring and fall of 1987, two teenage girls were murdered on the San Francisco Peninsula, roughly 6 months and a few miles apart. Neither case has ever been solved. Almost 4 decades later, both remain open and both families are still waiting. Yvonne Fruit. Yvonne Fruit was 14 years old, a sophomore at El Camino High School in South San Francisco. In May 1987, she was found dead in bushes beside a dirt path, a shortcut students used regularly to get to and from school. She had been sexually assaulted and stabbed multiple times. Documentation of her case is sparse in the public record compared to other Peninsula cold cases from the same era. What's consistent across local accounts is the location, a path known and used by the student body, not somewhere isolated or hard to reach, which is part of what has made the case unsettling to people who grew up in the area. Whoever was responsible either knew the route well or found the opportunity there by chance, and no arrest ever followed. Michelle Matucci. 6 months later, in November 1987, 13-year-old Michelle Matucci, a student at Alta Loma Junior High, was walking home from school at around 3:30 p.m. when she disappeared. According to the City of Daly City's own cold case records, she was last seen alive on that walk. By about 10 p.m. that night, her partially clothed body was found in a backyard on the 100 block of Morton Drive in Daly City, only a short distance from her own home. She had been strangled, and investigators found a head injury and evidence pointing to a sexual motive. Daly City police described the suspect, based on what evidence existed at the time, as a white male adult, roughly 6 feet tall, slim build, with dark hair combed back behind the ears. That description has sat unmatched to any named suspect for going on 40 years. Why these two cases get linked? Fruit and Matucci are often mentioned together by people who grew up in South San Francisco and Daly City, not because there's confirmed evidence tying the crimes to the same person, but because of the coincidences: two schoolgirls, similar ages, 6 months apart, both cases involving a sexual assault element, both along routes the girls walked routinely, both in neighboring cities on the peninsula, and both permanently unsolved. None of that proves a connection. Proximity and pattern are not evidence, but it's enough that local true crime discussion has kept returning to the two names together for decades. Investigators at the time did pursue leads. Communities that lived through it recall rumors that circulated among students, accounts of an older man seen with one of the girls beforehand, but nothing in the public record shows those leads ever converged on a suspect who was charged. Where the cases stand now. Both murders are formally classified as unsolved. Michelle Matucci's case is listed on Daly City's official cold case page, which the department maintains publicly and periodically updates. A sign the file is still technically active, even if dormant for stretches of time. Yvonne Fruit's case doesn't have the same visible institutional presence online, which is common for cold cases handled by smaller departments decades before digital record-keeping became standard. The actual path forward: forensic genealogy. What's changed since 1987 isn't the evidence in these two files, it's what technology can now do with evidence that was collected decades ago and simply filed away. Forensic investigative genetic genealogy, the method that identified the Golden State Killer in 2018, works by taking DNA recovered from a crime scene, uploading a profile to genealogy databases, and building out family trees from distant relative matches until investigators narrow in on a living suspect or a name. It has since cracked cold cases going back to the 1960s and 70s across the country, cases that were, for all practical purposes, considered unsolvable for a generation. If biological evidence was preserved from either the Fruit or Matt Uxie case, and California law enforcement agencies have gotten considerably better about long-term evidence retention since the 1980s, this is the realistic route to an answer, not amateur pattern matching decades after the fact. That kind of forensic work requires an active department decision to reopen and resubmit the evidence, which is where public pressure and continued attention on cases like these can genuinely matter. Cold case units are usually underfunded and understaffed relative to the volume of unsolved homicides on their books, and cases tend to move only when someone, a family, a journalist, a persistent community keeps asking. A note on speculation. There's a great deal of amateur theorizing about these two cases online, some of it built around rumors, second-hand recollections, and loosely connected local history. None of that constitutes evidence, and speculation about the identity of a suspect, especially speculation that could point toward a real, private individual based on circumstantial reasoning, risks doing real harm to people who have no connection to either crime. The responsible way to push these cases forward isn't crowdsourced identification, it's pressure on the departments that hold the evidence to use the forensic tools now available. Yvonne Fruit and Michelle Matt Uxie were 14 and 13 years old. Their killers were never named. That's the fact. This story actually rests on. Everything else is still just a question.